This is the story of the 4 Idaho college students who were murdered. First, I want to send my condolences to all the victims' families who were involved in this tragedy. I hope and pray they catch the individuals who committed this crime. In Idaho's Moscow, in the wake of the horrific stabbing deaths of 4 University Idaho students, investigators have already examined more than 1,000 tips. Authorities, however, said on Friday that they are still looking for a suspect in the homicides that have perplexed and shaken this college town. The students, identified as Ethan Chapin, 20, of Conway, Washington, Madison Mogan, 21, of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Xana Kernodle, 20, of Avondale, Arizona, and Kaylee Goncalves, 21, of Rathdrum, Idaho, were discovered dead on Sunday, November 13, 2022, in a home close to the university. Following the early morning murder spree in Moscow, Idaho, on November 13, the police made statements to the public, reassuring them that there was no danger to the public and that the attack at a house close to campus was an isolated incident. But in the days that have passed since then, the authorities have reneged on those promises. 103 pieces of evidence, approximately 4,000 photos, several three-dimensional scans of the crime scene, and more than 150 interviews were listed in the investigators' statement on Wednesday. Both patience and advice were sought from the public. The Moscow Police Department's Captain Roger Lanier declared that this was their top priority. It will continue to be our top priority. We owe the families that. The information that has come to light has only added to the intrigue surrounding the 4 students' gruesome deaths, which occurred as they looked to be enjoying a routine Saturday night in a neighborhood where there had not been a murder for 7 years. 2 other residents of the rented home appeared to have been sleeping during the incident, as they were stabbed to death inside. According to phone data, 2 of the victims made several unsuccessful calls to a friend in the early morning hours. Until around noon, no one called 911 to report the incident. Ethan Chapin, 20, was there to see his girlfriend, Xana Kernodle, who was one of the victims. Madison Mogan, 21, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, and Xana Kernodle, 20, all lived at the house. Here is what else we know so far. Many students were out having fun on a typical Saturday night after a University of Idaho football game in the hours before the deaths. According to the authorities, Mr. Chapin and Ms. Kernodle attended a party at the Sigma Chi fraternity from around 8 to 9 p.m. At around 1:45 a.m., the couple, who had been dating since the spring, went back to Ms. Kernodle's house. According to detectives, Ms. Mogan and Ms. Goncalves went to the Corner Club pub together at around 11 p.m. and stayed there until 1:30 a.m. 10 minutes after that, a live-stream video camera caught Ms. Mogan and Ms. Goncalves stopping at a late-night food truck where they were placing an order. When their lunch was done, they left after mingling with others on the sidewalk while conversing and grinning. According to the police, they were taken home by a private party. According to Ms. Goncalves' older sister, a neighbor's security camera captured Ms. Mogan and Ms. Goncalves coming home at 1:56 in the morning. According to Ms. Goncalves' older sister, Olivia Goncalves, 7 missed calls from Ms. Goncalves' phone to a friend were made between 2:26 and 2:52 a.m. Additionally, Ms. Mogan's phone was used to call the same friend multiple times, according to the authorities. The calls, according to Olivia Goncalves, were made to Jack Duker, a classmate who had been Kaylee Goncalves' boyfriend for several years until recently, when they decided to terminate things amicably. She claimed that Mr. Duker missed the calls because he was asleep and that there were no other calls on her sister's phone account during that time. Mr. Duker was unwilling to talk about the calls. Stand by Jack 100% and know he had nothing to do with this at all, Olivia Goncalves said on behalf of herself and her family. She claimed that even if it was just to ask a simple question like what she should eat for dinner, her sister would routinely call people late at night and frequently keep calling until they picked up. 2 surviving roommates and a long knife. Although they have not given a specific time, investigators have stated that the 4 victims were killed early on Sunday, November 13th. According to Kathy Mabbitt, the coroner for Latah County, all 4 of the victims were most likely dozing off when they were attacked and may have been in their beds. She claimed that all 4 of the victims appeared to have been repeatedly stabbed with a big knife and that some of the victims may have attempted to defend themselves. Investigators have been looking at the horrific, bloody scene left by the attacks for days. Ms. Mabbitt declared, "It's such a horrible crime. It's difficult to imagine that someone would do such a crime and remain at large, whether they live here or were here." According to Ms. Mabbitt, none of the victims displayed symptoms of sexual assault. According to the authorities, 2 additional female housemates were present but were not harmed while the 4 companions were being slaughtered. Investigators suspected that the 2 had dozed off during the murders. There are 2 bedrooms on each floor of the home's 6 total. The victims were discovered on the 2nd and 3rd levels, according to the police, who would not comment on whether there was any indication that the attacker had been on the 1st floor. One of the women who lived upstairs had passed out and was not waking up, according to the 2 housemates who were still alive when they called some of their friends to the residence. Just before noon, after the friends arrived, one of them dialed 911, and the cops showed up to discover the 4 stabbing victims. The 911 call's recording or transcript will not be made public by investigators. The 2 surviving roommates, according to the police, had each been out of town on Saturday and had returned home by 1 in the morning. Nobody has been detained. A suspect has not yet been named by the investigators. However, they have initially ruled out several candidates, including a man can be seen in the camera footage at the food truck with Ms. Goncalves and Ms. Mogan, the individual who drove Ms. Mogan and Ms. Goncalves home. The 2 surviving housemates were present when the incident occurred. The friends whom the surviving housemates invited over the next morning following the attacks. Mr. Duker, a victim's previous boyfriend. The idea that there may have been many offenders has been left open by the authorities. To find out if anyone had recently purchased a fixed-blade knife, investigators got in touch with nearby companies. The Moscow Police Department's Chief James Fry stated on Sunday that he was unable to determine whether the murderer was still in the area or had left. He said, "I can't say if the individual is here. I am unable to disclose the individual's community." Since no one has been detained in connection with the case, Moscow residents and online sleuths have been exchanging theories and unconfirmed claims, which has led the police to ask that people refrain from spreading misinformation. After rumors about unexplained animal deaths that occurred before the crime started to circulate this week, including one that a dog had been skinned, detectives claimed they had found no connection between the animal deaths and the deaths of the 4 students. Investigators claimed on Wednesday that during interviews, Ms. Goncalves made some comments regarding a stalker before her passing. They claimed that despite their best efforts, they had been unable to confirm that information. The sister of Ms. Goncalves claimed not to be aware of any such worries. The Pullman, Washington, double stabbing that occurred in 1999 and the Salem, Oregon, double stabbing that occurred in 2021 both prompted several inquiries, according to the Moscow Police Department on Friday. According to officials, there is no evidence to suggest that the 2 cases are connected. As we come to a close on this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more updates.